the aliens are coming to Earth. Isn't it amazing that such sentences are said particularly frequently by people who have set off into space themselves? Many astronauts are firmly convinced that we are not alone in the universe, not least because of the frightening observations they made during their missions. Buzz Aldrin also saw something on his journey to the moon that he simply could not explain. But that's not all. The second man on the moon thinks it is impossible that we are the only living beings in the cosmos. July 20, 1969 is forever immortalized in our history books. As we all know, this was the day on which mankind reached a groundbreaking milestone. From then on, it was a species that traveled to foreign celestial bodies. 20 minutes after Neil Armstrong had taken his legendary "one small step for man," it was also time for Buzz Aldrin to leave the lunar module. Armstrong and Aldrin spent a total of 2 hours and 31 minutes on the lunar surface. And after the two space pioneers had set up a range of research equipment and the U.S. flag, they set about preparing the return flight to Earth with a good 20 kilograms of moon rock in their luggage. The lunar module took off without a hitch, and just under 4 hours later, the vehicle docked with the command module again. Reunited with the third Apollo 11 astronaut, Michael Collins, the trio then headed back towards our blue home planet. That's right, and then those behind the scenes at Area 51 switched off the cameras and had a great time fooling the whole world. Now, you've probably also heard that the moon landing is not regarded in certain circles as the most groundbreaking breakthrough in manned space travel, but as one of the greatest deceptive maneuvers of all time. According to this, the Americans wanted to achieve a technological victory over the hated Soviet Union at all costs, and incidentally, to divert attention from the unspeakable suffering of the Vietnam War. To achieve those goals, the USA was prepared to use any means necessary, so they staged the moon landing without further ado. Buzz Aldrin was also repeatedly confronted with such conspiracy theories over the course of his life, and he had his very own, powerful response to the accusations. When he was insulted as a liar and a fraud by filmmaker Bart Sibrel in 2002 and urged to swear on the Bible, he gave him a classic punch in the jaw. However, this was not the only unusual story with which Aldrin has etched himself into the memory of the online community. After landing on the moon, the astronaut said something that left many users with a captivating question. Did Buzz Aldrin see a UFO? The lunar visitor was quoted as follows: "There was something out there. We were close enough to observe it. It looked kind of L-shaped. It was a light that seemed to be moving parallel to us." Michael Collins also managed to observe the mysterious object through the telescope. And while Aldrin first shared this puzzling observation with the public in 2005, he confirmed his statements again a few months ago. But it seems that the Apollo 11 crew knew full well at the time that their sighting had the potential to make huge waves. For this reason, the men decided to be extremely reticent about the incident. Aldrin commented, "Of course, the three of us didn't want to blurt it out and say, 'Hey Houston, there's something next to us and we don't know what it is. Can you tell us what it is?' We didn't want to do that because we knew that the radio transmissions were being listened to by all kinds of people. And who knows, someone might have asked us to turn back because it was aliens." Instead, the astronauts preferred to approach the incident a little more cautiously. We decided to ask Houston carefully how far away the SIVB was. To explain briefly, this refers to the third stage of the Saturn V rocket. However, the answer from Earth did not really help to shed any more light on the galactic darkness. Later, Dr. David Baker, who was also involved in the Apollo 11 mission at the time, confirmed Aldrin's statements, which conversely means nothing other than that NASA knew about the appearance of the unknown flying object. In 2007, Baker commented on the incident as follows: "Obviously, it was an unidentified flying object, but such were by no means uncommon, and the history of manned spaceflight suggests that several crews have seen such objects." But did the objects necessarily have to be extraterrestrial spaceships? Well, although Aldrin described the observation purely technically as unidentified, he admits that the sighting could theoretically be explained in another way. There are explanations that don't amount to a spacecraft from other nations or other worlds. It's either a rocket that we had separated from, or one of the 4 shutters that fell off at the moment we pulled the lander out of the last stage, reflecting the sunlight. Despite this, Aldrin finds it hard to imagine that Earth is the only celestial body in the universe that harbored life. The former astronaut said, "There could be aliens in our Milky Way, and there are billions of other galaxies besides it. It is therefore almost certain that there is other life somewhere in the universe." Neil Armstrong is said to have seen something incredible. Particularly curious, Aldrin's stories about the mysterious L-shaped object caused a stir afterwards that some people accused him of lying. In order to verify the truth of the story, a team from the Institute of Bioacoustic Biology set itself the task of analyzing the space traveler's voice under, quote, laboratory conditions. And according to the experts, there is no doubt that Aldrin was completely convinced by his report. And a second legendary visitor to the moon is also said to have seen something during the Apollo 11 mission that sends a shiver down our spines. Well, this is certainly true if we believe the words of Italian politician and journalist Sergio Zavoli. He claimed to have interviewed Neil Armstrong, but the article in question was only published 2 years after Armstrong's death. As a result, he was no longer able to comment on the explosive content, which reads as follows. "The astronaut told me that he saw a group of mysterious objects nearby during the final stages of the approach to the moon. When Armstrong was asked about the interference with radio transmissions by Mission Control Center at 4:05 on July 21, 1969, he replied, 'I see huge objects. They look like spaceships, and what's worse, they are watching us.' While we are certainly well advised to treat the Italian statements with a certain amount of skepticism, as mentioned, Armstrong is no longer able to describe his view of things, and during his lifetime, the astronaut never commented publicly on UFOs or aliens. However, things are a little different in the case of another space traveler. And believe me, what Ed Mitchell had to say on this subject is even more outrageous than anything you've heard so far. The aliens visited Earth, and they saved us. As a participant in the Apollo 14 mission, Ed Mitchell became the 6th man on the moon on February 5, 1971. And yet it is not the astronaut's successful descent to the moon that has stuck in the public consciousness, but the incredible claims he made after his time at NASA. For example, he once said at an appearance at the National Press Club, "There is evidence that we are not alone in the universe, and no doubt that we have already been visited. We should prepare ourselves to look beyond our Earth and solar system and investigate what's going on out there." But how could Mitchell be so sure? Well, he was referring to the most famous UFO crash landing of all time, the mysterious Roswell incident of 1947. For what was officially just a crashed weather balloon was in fact an extraterrestrial spaceship that crashed on the Earth's surface along with its crew. According to Mitchell, the U.S. government wanted to conceal the true background of the incident at all costs. The eyewitnesses were massively threatened and prevented from speaking. However, as Mitchell himself was from the area and had already been to the moon, he was later able to gain the trust of local residents and learn the truth. He also managed to make himself heard in the Pentagon and to initiate an investigation into the alleged UFO crash. As part of this, a high-ranking admiral even confirmed all the rumors about aliens and flying saucers. But then, a higher authority intervened and the investigation was stopped. But Mitchell was not deterred by this setback and continued to do everything he could to present the truth, or at least his version of it, to the public. According to this version, the extraterrestrials had by no means merely visited Earth and observed it from the shadows. They had even actively intervened in the course of human history. In fact, it was thanks to the courageous intervention of the aliens that the Cold War did not escalate into a devastating nuclear war between the USA and the Soviet Union. NASA's response to Mitchell's claims, however, was as brief as it was clear. NASA has not cited any UFOs. Furthermore, NASA is not involved in any cover-up of extraterrestrial life on Earth or in space, period. And yet, the aforementioned team of experts who checked the veracity of Buzz Aldrin's voice came to the conclusion that Ed Mitchell was not lying either. For some, this is a crystal clear indication that things are going on in secret that the rest of the world should never know about. Others, on the other hand, remember that lie detector tests are no longer admissible in court, even in America. Do you love learning about the most incredible astronaut testimonials? Then what are you waiting for? Press subscribe now and never miss a video on this exciting topic again.